And welcome back to Nancy's Neighborhood. And I told you we've got an exciting guest as our second guest too. And this is Ken Phillips, or author C.K. Phillips. I love that. He has written third in the series of the Kent and Landers thrillers, and this one is called The Survival Initiative. Ken, I couldn't put it down. I mean, I had to put it down to go to bed at night and do, but it's wonderful.
I appreciate that, and I am excited to be here today to talk about this book. I think in some of my reviews, people have said that this one is the best of the three that I've done so far, and that's the way it really ought to progress. One ought to get better as the more that he writes or she writes, I guess. So I'm excited about this one.
I think it's the best too. I read the first one, which was Comes the Awakening, and that happened in Nova Scotia, and I'm going there in September. I got so excited about that. I don't know that I'm going to Oak Island, but I'm going to Nova Scotia. And then the second one was Echoes of Skeletons Past, and I showed you the other day. I got halfway through it, laid it aside, and did something else. But not that it wasn't good, folks. It's just, but this one you will not be able to put down.
Good, good. I hope that's the way everybody feels about it.
And this one hits real close to home. Real close to home.
Right. And in fact, in some of my blurbs, I put you won't know where you're reading the headlines or whether you're reading a fiction book. And I hope with some of the things that happen in this book that it stays fiction.
Absolutely.
Because there's some things there that we don't want to happen, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And I want to take just a minute and say, Jerry Frazier, I'm not going to give away anything in this book. He fussed at me last time we did an interview. He said, you almost told everything that happened. I'm not doing that this time. But this is just, actually could be today.
It could be.
It could be.
And we hope that it's not. I hope it's
Absolutely.
not today or tomorrow.
No.
But it could be. We could read it in the headlines anytime.
Absolutely. And it has some, and I think I asked you this before. Were you military?
No.
I don't know how you do this because you do such a good job. It Comes the Awakening, you did such a good job with the military and the sniper and nest and everything like that. And in this, you've done such a great job too. And these two characters are something else.
I appreciate that, and hopefully they're growing and learning a little more as we go along. Maybe they'll teach me how to keep going there with them.
They're getting a little more. Is involved a good word? A little more. I'm trying not to give anything away, but they're getting a little more detailed, a little more into what they're doing. We're seeing a little of the Black Ops come out in some of this, and so. Yeah, it's just really good.
I appreciate that, and although I've alluded to, of course, Kent's wife has been an integral part of all of the books.
Cindy.
But Lisa, who is the wife to Lander,
New wife,
has never been involved in the story, although I've mentioned her a time or two. But in this one, she is a little bit a part of the story.
Big part of the story.
Big part of the story, it's particularly in the beginning.
In the beginning, absolutely. So, and here again, Jerry, I'm not going to give it away, I promise. But I made some notes as I was reading, and there's just some things I'm thinking, Ken, where in the world? Neural imprinting.
Okay, neural imprinting. Most people probably have not heard of that. I really hadn't until I started getting into it. But it's actual. If you look it up, and really when I write books, I try to include some things on there that people want to go to Google to see if, does he know what he's talking about? Is this real, or is it just science fiction, I guess, in some ways? But I try to push that envelope and try to include some things in there that make people wonder, whether or not this is really going on. And neural imprinting is one of those. And there's been some studies done, and I don't want to get into too much of whether or not they're true or not, but there's been some promise in some relieving of pain through some of the neural imprinting, which I guess is a clue that there's some pain that happens in this book to one of the characters, and I don't want to go into too much detail there.
No, we're not going to give it away.
But
No.
neural imprinting is one of those things that's on the leading edge of some technology right now.
And that was fascinating to me. And you talked in here about San Francisco State College. Were you aware of San Francisco State College? How did you research San Francisco? I mean, why did you pick it?
Because that's where one of my characters went to school.
I know it is, but why did your character go to school there?
I wanted something in that area because I wanted that part of the story set
Gotcha.
out in that area.
Gotcha.
And I didn't want to do the USC, UCLA, and all that, but I found the college that had a lot of the technology that I wanted to include in the background for this particular character, and it seemed to fit the bill.
And it was fascinating. Now, I'll give away too much. If I am for WD, did you make that up? You don't have to go into detail because I don't want anybody to know about this, but did you make that up?
I did make that one up,
that's,
yes.
That's good. So now you need to get the book and read it to see what that is. RPI MA France, did you make that up?
No.
No, that's actually, okay.
Right.
And the Zone of Silence.
A true place.
Okay.
Okay, and there is has been mysterious for over a period of years, and it's a place in Mexico that's called the Zone of Silence, and supposedly it's an area where nothing electronic will work, and so it falls into one of those places where one of the characters wants to make sure that he's not being electronically eavesdropped on.
Right. And but I thought, oh my gosh. And you did, I can't do that one because oh gosh. Project Bluebeam.
Project Bluebeam.
Don't give away a whole lot, but how much can you say about that one?
It's an interesting concept. That is true.
Okay.
Now, when I say true, it's true that it is a concept and it's somebody's hypotheses about some things that are going on and may happen in the near future. But you need to look at that one. I don't want to go into detail there.
No, and we don't want to go into. And the other one was the Heirloom Seal of the state. Was there actually a thing? I mean, is there actually? Don't go too much into detail because you'll tell.
Yes. To quickly answer that, yes.
Good. Okay, folks, I want to tell you right now. This is awesome. I'm an avid reader, and I started this right after you came by the shop Thursday, and I thought, well, I'll just start on it. And then I read, and I couldn't put it down, and then I started 2.5 days on and off. I had this book read, and anybody that doesn't have anything else to do could probably read it in a day. It is fascinating, and it is scary.
It has some things in there that we hope never happen.
Absolutely.
But everything that's there is capable of happening.
Absolutely. And that's why I couldn't put it down, because I was waiting to see if it actually happened in the book.
Right.
Because I thought if it actually, well, no, I'm not going there either. But, all right, now, let's talk a little bit about writing a book. Your first one. When, how, what said, Ken, you're going to write a book?
And I may have said this the other time that I was on. If I did, I don't want to be too redundant, but it's something that I've always wanted to do for a long time now. I've wanted to try my hand at writing. For several years in Bradley County School System, I taught in the English department at Bradley High School, and read a lot of books. I've always been an avid reader. I grew up in a pretty poor family from the old field, and we couldn't travel a lot, and I grew up on constant diet of Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys,
yes.
and that got me into that genre a little bit.
And you're into it really good here.
So I've just always been an avid reader, and gone through spells where at times I've just read several books a week, and other times get so busy like everybody else that I haven't. But about 2.5 years ago, probably about 2.5 years ago, I looked into the mirror and said, "Old man, if you're going to do this, you better get busy because time keeps going on."
Yes, it
And
does.
I heard this when I was young, that as you get older, time goes faster. And I didn't think those older people knew what they were talking about, but I believe they were right on, spot on. And so at that point, I had some ideas about where I wanted it to go. You talked about Nova Scotia. My wife and I, Cindy, had gone to Nova Scotia a few years back and loved it, particularly around the Lunenburg, Peggy's Cove area, and which is where really the first book I went back and set it there as far as the primary setting. At the time we went up there, I didn't know anything about Oak Island, but it was right there, and I would have loved to have gone to that place. And Oak Island, I mean, Nova Scotia is one of those places that at some point we definitely wouldn't mind revisiting because we liked it so well, and I'm sure you'll enjoy that trip.
Hopefully I will.
So I set that book there and began writing, and a statue in Washington, D.C. that we had visited several times and taken students there, called The Awakening, played an integral part in that. And then when I found out about Oak Island and it being right there in the vicinity of Lunenburg and Peggy's Cove, then those three things came together and gave me really what I wanted to do for the first book.
And it was really good. I didn't want to put it down. And the second book is about dinosaurs.
The second book is about what would happen if some of those large animals that we consider to be just exotic, extinct animals, like dinosaurs, like the saber-toothed tiger, and several of those things. What if we could bring those back? And in fact, if you follow the news, a lot of those things are happening now. They're backloading and getting some DNA samples and trying to bring some of those animals back. And when they find certain types of bones particularly in the permafrost in Siberia and so forth, we're probably pretty close to, and we have already brought back some of those animals, not the saber-toothed tiger, not the woolly mammoth, although that's right on the horizon from everything that you can read.
Yeah.
So the second book is about that, but it's about groups of people that come into the dig sites where some of these bones are being found and steal those bones and do some killing of some scientists and so forth to get those bones and try to go back, and you'll have to read from there on.
Yes, you will. And Jerry Fraser, we're not going to spoil that one either. And this one right here, folks, I'm telling you, you need to pick it up and read it. Now, where can they find this book?
Okay, it can be, it's available right now on Amazon as either a print book, which Nancy has a copy of right there, or as an ebook, Kindle book that you can download and start reading within 2 minutes, I guess, if you like to read on the Kindle or an iPad or any of those kinds of things. They also could be ordered, although they're not on the shelves right now, but they could be ordered through, I guess, Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, and some of those places.
Okay. Now, as an author, what do you do to get your book published? Where do you go?
Okay, there's traditional publishing. A lot of the big names still are going with traditional publishing. And that's where you have an agent, and if you're unknown, it's where you try to get an agent for maybe a year or 2 or 3 or whatever, and then that if you get one, they send the book, the manuscript, to a publisher, and whether or not they're looking for that particular genre, that type of story right now, it still will take a long time in order to get it published in a traditional way. A lot of authors, particularly unknown authors or not as well-known authors, are going with what they call indie publishing now. And a lot of those are using Amazon, and Amazon has two publishing places under their big umbrella. For ebooks, it's called Kindle Direct Publishing, KDP, where I can submit a story, they check it, make sure that it meets all of their guidelines, make sure the not major errors in them, and then you can get it published through them.
Oh, okay.
They also have an imprint called Create Space, which is the print section for what they do with the books, and the author has to format it a little bit differently than what we do for an ebook. An ebook, most of you are familiar with, has to have the contents, table of contents in the front that are actual links, so that if you click
Right.
on chapter
Lose your place.
13, you
Yeah.
can go to chapter 13 from there. With the prints, there's a few different few different ways that they want it differently formatted, and then you submit that to Create Space and with a cover. And if they all meet their guidelines and specifications, then you can print it through them then.
Okay.
And you don't have that months and months and years of waiting. And at my age, I don't want to spend that time waiting on somebody to discover it.
What I love, it's large print,
Right, it is.
and the chapters are not that long. I
Right.
mean, you know, and it flows beautifully, and it's just an exciting book, Ken. I just thought it was really, I think it's your best.
I appreciate that.
But I think everybody out there needs to go. Now, our library, I think, Comes the Awakening.
I think they have it, and maybe the other one.
Okay.
And for those of you that go through Amazon, they have a lending section through Amazon that actually, I guess, record the number of pages read and those kind of things. But hopefully our library will get a copy, and I'll be sure to go by and try to give them another copy of this book at least.
Good.
So that we have something here so that if you want to go borrow it, you can.
And Ken, thank you so much for being on. This book is awesome, folks, and you really should read it. I'm not kidding. It's great.
I appreciate it, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on
I
and
appreciate
talk about
you.
it.
I appreciate the fact that you're writing such exciting books. And honestly, I'm going to tell y'all, this book is this is a thought provoker. That's all I'm going to say. It's a thought provoker.
It is, and it will probably be accepted better for certain types of groups than other groups. But for people in this area of the country, I think we're spot on with what we're talking about in there.
I think you are too. So, Ken, thank you so much. And folks, this is called the Survival Initiative, and it's something you really, really want to read. I promise you, you do. Very good. Ken, thank you. And when your fourth book gets out, let me know, and we'll have you on again to talk about that.
I'll be glad to do that. It probably won't be next week, but I am working.
Oh, you are working on one.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Folks, don't go away. We'll be right back with the upcoming events that are happening in Cleveland, Bradley County. So we'll be right back.